Welcome to Housing Market Insider, where in this video, I interview top producing real estate agent under 30, Liam O'Reilly. In this video, you'll hear how he began his career at the ripe age of 22 years old. After backpacking in Europe and being intrigued by Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he decided to make a difference in his life and others through real estate. I hope you enjoy Liam. Liam, thanks so much, man, for jumping on here with me. Can't wait to learn more about you and tell everybody who you are.
Yeah. Todd, thanks for having me. So Liam O'Reilly, I'm a realtor here in the Vermont area. I have a YouTube channel, Vermont Economic Realtor. I'm in my fourth year as a realtor. So this is what I do full time. And I love it. I love helping people buy and sell homes.
Did you go to college?
I did for a couple of years. And then I ended up leaving school. I was paying for my own school. And, I just didn't think it was smart to get into a tremendous amount of debt without knowing what I wanted to do. And I kind of stumbled into real estate by first learning about real estate investors and seeing what real estate can do for you financially. That's what got me interested, and shortly after became an agent, and have been doing this ever since.
So when you were in college, did you decide that you would leave college to become a real estate agent, or was there something in between?
No, yeah, there was a lot in between. I traveled Europe, backpacked Europe for 2 months. Was a ski bum out in Utah for a little while. I hiked the Appalachian Trail, so did that for 6 months. And kind of, tried a few different things. I worked in sales out in California, selling small business loans, which was, that was kind of wild. I was selling 34% interest rate loans to small businesses, which is insane. But
that is crazy.
Yeah. All revenue based. Anyway, that's a whole different story. But that kind of led me into sales. I tried doing a videography business with some friends out in California, and that got me into sales and cold calling, knocking on doors, just trying to get business. And so that lit a fire under me that I brought over to being an agent.
Yeah. So how old are you, Liam?
I'm 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Jeez. So you got into real estate when you were 22?
Yeah. 20. I guess so. 22. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's amazing. So did you have influence? I mean, do you have family that's in real estate? I mean, was there a friend? Did somebody like grab you and say, hey, you'd be great at selling real estate?
No, not at all. I think I saw what real estate could do for people and do for, for people's wealth. And that's where I wanted to be financially. And so I thought the best way to learn about investing in real estate was to get into real estate. That's kind of what brought me into the business. But just my background with sales and marketing has really helped me. It was a natural transition.
So you knew you were looking around and you're saying, man, the people with the wealth are ones that invest in real estate. They own either houses or commercial buildings, and that kind of intrigued you. And you said, hey, in order to learn this inside and out, I'll become an agent. So who was the influence? Was there like one particular person? I mean, did you read a book, or like, were you, working for people that own real estate? Like, just kind of take us down the path of where you had that moment where you're like, wow, this guy's rich or has a lot of money and he owns real estate.
Yeah. Well, I think what first kind of tipped me off, I guess when I was in middle school, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And so that was the seed that planted, in my mind at a young age, as I'm sure a lot of people who get into real estate, that's their first introduction to it. And then I saw Meet Kevin, the YouTuber, obviously has millions of subscribers. Back in 2019 or so, he was talking about, he talks about a lot of stuff now, but back then it was mostly about renovating properties and renting out properties. And he was talking about the benefits of it. And then I got into the Bigger Pockets podcast and stuff like that. And then I found a firm, the firm that I'm with, Jerry Riley Real Estate. Jerry owns a handful of rentals herself, and has done well through that, as well as selling real estate. And then, so I guess those were my influences.
Yeah, it's amazing. I hear that a lot. So, I mean, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, what an amazing book. And, it's nothing like it. If for those of you that haven't read the book, it really isn't a rich dad or a poor dad. The poor dad isn't actually poor at all. It's just a different, mindset, of accumulating something that's goes beyond the paycheck, the 40-hour a week paycheck kind of thing. That's interesting. So when you got into the business, you haven't seen a downturn, man. I mean, it's, we're looking at, probably the most challenging time that is coming in your career besides starting. But let's just kind of, would you consider yourself successful? I mean, when you started at 22, would you consider yourself a successful realtor?
I would. I would consider myself successful. I sell personally between 20 and 25 homes a year. That's been my average. So it's been pretty consistent, and I think that's a pretty hot start. It's really been the influence of my team has really helped me, having somebody to take me under their wing, show me the ropes, and then kind of let me build off of that has been great.
Yeah. So 25. So you did 25 transactions for the last couple of years. I mean, when you would say that.
Yeah. I did 25 or 26 in 2021. And I think last year was 23, something like that.
Then kind of take us back. What the second year? What would you think?
Well, that was, so I guess the first year was just kind of getting started. The first year was, I started in August and there was only a couple sales. And then the one after that was 25. And then last year was 23. And then this year I'm on track for right around the same, right around that, probably be right around 20. It's been a little bit of a slower year, as the transactions are down significantly. There's just less homes being bought and sold, which is what our business is based off of, is transactions.
Yeah. So let's take you back to year one, because a lot of people that are watching, maybe they're considering going into the real estate business, or maybe, they've only been in for a year or so, and now they're faced with, a turn in the industry, which I've been through several of. And I went through the 2008 crisis, which was really kind of rough, being an agent at that point. But before that, I experienced a couple downturns as a contractor and a builder, and really, these things are typically temporary. I mean, since 1989, I've been self-employed, the ups and the downs through the years. But if we look back in the history of time through the U.S., we do have recessions. Actually, they're more, spanned out now than they were, just 50 or 60 years ago. It seemed like almost every 2 or 3 years we had some kind of, pandemic, recession, depression, panic. If you go back 200 years. So it's not uncommon for us to have ups and downs in business, but a lot of people aren't prepared for that. So, a lot of people right now may be, thinking about the industry, getting out of the business, restructuring their business, figuring out how they're going to get through this next however long it's going to be. But when you started your business, because essentially, you're self-employed, you become a real estate agent. There are very few brokerages out there that actually employ you as a salary job. I think Redfin's one of them. But kind of when you started your business, you had this ideal, right? You're like, wow, I'm going to get excited. I've passed my test. I'm going to crush it in real estate. I'm going to jump in. And then, you realize that you were self-employed. So kind of, and that's not easy. So how were you financially prepared when you started your business 4 years ago? Did you have money saved up?
Yeah. Yeah, I had a little bit saved up, maybe around 10,000 or so. I was working as a server at the time, so waiting tables, and then I kind of kept that for a little while and worked part time as a server to get me through that first initial hump. It took me, probably about 4 months before my first closing, so there is a little bit of downtime there where you're not going to get paid right away. I mean, when you get a home under contract, sometimes it could be 60 days before you actually close. So it's not immediate. And of course, to get your first home under contract, you have to get a lead. You have to nurture that lead. If it's a buyer, you're out there showing them properties. Most people don't buy the first home that they see, or if it's a seller, the home might not sell right away. So it takes some time. And I think so for me, at least, having that part-time job at first helped me transition, and then also having the nest egg where once I got a couple sales under my belt, I felt comfortable enough to make the full transition and move into being full-time.
So,
Yeah,
are you on a team right now?
I am I'm on a team. Yeah.
How long have you been at the same brokerage on the same team the entire 4 years?
Yes. Yep. Yep. I've been on the same team, and it's worked out well. I mean, from what I've seen, at least, the when I look at the industry, how I see it is when you work on a team, it seems like there's more inbound leads coming through the team because you're with an established brand who has a strong reputation across the industry. Compared to if you join as a solo agent, you're doing a lot more outbound prospecting, and there's less leads coming in for you to take.
Yeah, I
Uh,
100% agree. Yeah, I mean, I tell people all the time, if they're brand new agents, it's great to get on a team. If I were to go back in time and do it, I would probably pick, just like you said, the most reputable team, the one that does the highest production, the one that maybe serves a client that isn't as affected from the ups and downs of the economy. Go for the team that does the most in the wealthiest part of town. I mean, that's what I would do. When and it's uncommon because people get pounded. I mean, you're probably recruited almost weekly, right? I mean, as far
yeah.
as recruiters calling you up and seeing that you're. Have you ever? I mean, in the last 4 years, I mean, was there ever a point when a recruiter called you up to kind of take you in a different direction? Was there ever a point that you were considering it?
Um, not at this time. Just because, well, I feel like I have a good thing going here. And so I think, in a few years, once I have more of a brand and more of a reputation, maybe that's the time to start considering other options. But I think as of right now, it's going well. It's a good firm. And at least the team that I'm with, Jerry, the owner, she's been in the business for 40 years. She really took me under her wing, and it makes me want to give back and keep giving to this business because it's not. I wasn't just tossed right there into it. She really helped me a lot.
Yeah. Did you know her prior to? How did you select that brokerage? I mean, was there
Yeah.
some kind of a connection?
No, there was no connection. Her last name's Riley. My last name's O'Reilly. So people think that I'm her son or something like that. But there was no connection. She was the only firm that was really advertising, trying to hire a new agent at the time. I reached out to a handful of companies. None of them got back to me. And Jerry didn't get back to me right away either. I mean, a lot of these realtors are very busy, and they kind of put hiring on the back burner sometimes. And so I reached out, filled out an application, and then called multiple times, walked into the office and just asked for a job. And I found that to be successful. That's how I got my sales job in California as well as a young kid. I was 20 at the time. They were advertising online, and I knew my resume wasn't going to look good for the sales company. There was going to be people with college degrees, people that would maybe have more experience than I did. But I just submitted the application, showed up to the business unannounced, talked to the owners, and they got a feel for who I was. And I took that same approach here. And I think that sort of follow up and resilience is what has made me a successful realtor, because even if you're, whether it's inbound inbound leads or outbound prospecting, the follow up and staying in touch with people, that's where I found most of my success. It's not that first conversation that they immediately sign on and trust me. It's being consistent, sending listings, showing your worth is what I found to be effective.
So kind of tell us how you're doing things, which, I mean, this is great. I mean, it sounds like, Liam, you're on definitely the long road, right? I mean, you're in it for long term. So, you weren't looking to just kind of, be greedy, get what you could from the broker, go on your own. You're very methodical in your approach. You just said it, when you build your own brand. So it's so nice to know that, there are young people like yourself that are out there that understand, that you don't have to have it all today. You can work towards your business and build it, about as securely as possible, right? I mean, you're not salary, right?
No.
Yeah, so you're still 100% commission. You still have to produce. You still have to sell. You have to hustle, but you're doing it. So you have a broker owner that has taken you under her wing. How long has she been in business?
She's been in business for over 40 years now. She started, I think, in 1980.
Yeah.
So she's seen a lot of different markets, and has been around for all the ups and downs.
So what is she doing now in preparing you and her brokerage, as far as what is she telling you about, the next 12 months or 18 months of business?
She is, I guess we're just working harder. We're just following up with people more, staying in contact with people, following up with old leads. Vermont is one of those unique places where, like in the 2008 downturn, Chittenden County, Vermont, which is where we're based, we saw, year over year price declines by 3%. So there historically hasn't been a whole lot of variance in prices in this part of the country and where we serve. But, we see the market changing. And I think a big part is when we have to be more on top of it, whether you're representing a buyer or a seller. It's not as easy as the past few years where it's been, all right, highest and best price, bid way over asking. There's 20 offers. You're waiving all contingencies. Now, at least up here, we are still seeing that with some of these transactions, but there's other homes that have sat on the market for a little while where the seller is negotiable, where it might be vacant and the seller wants to move. So on the buy side, it's really understanding what type of property we're looking at. And then on the sell side, I think it's really important not to list the property too high. And that's how we're coaching our sellers today is, you can still capture a competitive part of the market. You can still get multiple offers with what we're seeing now. But if you miss that, if you price it too high and you don't generate the amount of interest, then you're the seller that everyone's trying to lowball, and you put yourself in a tough spot.
Yeah. You say that where you are in Vermont, that you don't really have the fluctuation in the ups and downs as far as pricing, but certainly, at a time where interest rates are as high as they are, compared to where they've been, the sales slowdown is really what kind of is crushing agents right now. Not just agents, everybody in the business, loan officers, title companies. And, a lot of people, that haven't experienced the downturn, and you're lucky because Jerry has, but a lot of people that have not experienced this, they have been building, right? Adding offices, spending money, thinking that they're making so much money that they can just spend money with buying expensive houses themselves and expensive cars and things like that. What are you doing daily now? Let's kind of, knowing that your sales are down, I mean, kind of walk us through what an average day or an average week looks like for you.
Yeah. An average day. So I get to the office at 8:30 every day. And then I usually catch up on emails from the night before. Sometimes it's writing an offer. And then basically once I kind of am caught up with that, whether it's writing an offer, negotiating, or whatever I have to do right at the start of the day, I get that done, and then I start my follow up. I see what's on the market. I email listings that could work well for buyers to them. I'm following up with old leads, calling them, and then same thing on the listing side. It's just being consistent, staying in touch with those sellers. And then after I've kind of finished my follow up, that's when I focus on outbound prospecting, whether it's calling expired listings, or what we do a lot around here is we will call homes in a neighborhood of a property that we recently sold. And it's a little bit, it's another nice part about being on a team is that we work as a team. So even if it's not a listing that I have directly sold, and I try to focus on the listing side, where if it's a listing that closed, I'll call the other homes in that neighborhood, and just say, look, this is what we did for your neighbor. Do you have any interest in selling? And try to get some leads that way. But really, a big part about being an agent is I think a lot of people, they don't take it as a full 9 to 5 job, right? You're not clocking in and out every day. You're not getting paid hourly. So you don't have to show up. You don't have to do the work. You can just kind of respond to emails as they come in and work as hard as you want to. But in this market, when sales are down and things are more competitive, I think it's more important now than ever to do the work.
Yeah. Well, first you started with a goal. So the goal was, to own real estate, to build wealth in real estate. And that in order to do that, you have to be regimented. I mean, and being in business since 1989, I think one of the things, and I've seen a lot of businesses fail, it's, statistically speaking, 80% of sole proprietorships don't make it past year 2. And, incidentally, that just happens to be a real estate licensee's renewal period, right? We renew our licenses every 2 years. So it's like you look at that and you say, okay, that's why we have the attrition in this industry nationwide, is that people, they start their business, they're undercapitalized to start. They don't have the right mindset. They don't understand that they actually have to do certain things that seem unproductive to be productive. It's not all about winning, right? So you have to, it's like an athlete, you have to be ready to go out on the field. You have to prepare yourself. You have to do certain things, eat right, work out, and then when it's showtime, when the coach puts you in or it's game on, you have a client in front of you. That's the time that you've prepared for, when that call comes in, you've prepared for that. So, a lot of it is that I see is very frustrating. I see a lot of people that get into the business. And you know what? I see a lot of people that have been in the business for 25, 30 years that are doing nothing but complaining, right? They're just, they have 1,000 reasons why they can't make something happen. So it's not just for, first time brand new agents or young people in their 20s that this happens to. You've got winners and losers in all age brackets and all experience levels. But, you said that you go into the office, which is unique for for your age, or being a millennial, right? You're still considered a millennial, right?
Yeah. I might be the first month of Gen Z. My birthday's in January.
Okay. All right. So you're right at that point. But so what I found is that, a lot of people don't want to go into the office, and you get up every day and go to the office. I know it's kind of hard to say, but why let's just say, why do you do that? Do you have to, or do you want to?
Well, I guess it's a little bit of both. Like we're strongly encouraged to come into the office here as a company. And I think that plays into the culture that we have. When you're around the other agents in the office who are all working and following up and making these phone calls, that, at least for me, motivates me to get out there and make these calls. When I see another agent in the office getting homes under contract and closing deals, that motivates me to, close deals, to make more calls. And I think, at least in my instance, being at home and being alone, there's all these distractions. You have Netflix, and there's nobody really pushing you. But just having the influence of the office around, really, I think has contributed to my success as well.
I love it. I love it, man. I've been saying, in other podcasts, I've been saying, that one of the problems that we're having with, the mental health issue in America that's climbing and becoming, a greater problem, how complacency, how a lot of people are going to end up lose their jobs because they are less productive at home. And then you get the flip side of it where they're like, I'm more productive at home, blah, blah, blah. That's great. But that's a very small percentage of people that can actually keep themselves motivated, that they are so driven because you have your pets at home, your kids at home, maybe your spouse at home. You go to Target at 2:00 in the afternoon, which I'm saying there's nothing wrong with doing that, right? But when you're building a business and you're trying to establish and actually have something that is greater and beyond you as an operator, to where you can actually hire an assistant, you can actually build a brand, you can actually bring agents or start a team or a brokerage and bring people underneath of you. It requires more of a stronger dedication to service and creating business, because that stuff doesn't happen. There's no magic to it, right? You can't throw money at a business and expect that it will work. You have to actually do the work, right? So, a lot of people are setting, they have a 4-hour work week, or they say this or that or whatever. You can be successful, be a multi-trillionaire or whatever, and you don't, other people do it for you. That's all bull crap, right? You have to work smart. I agree. But part of working smart is getting into the office. I love that. So let's kind of take two scenarios here, because this is kind of, I always ask people this question. What's more important to you as an entrepreneur, as a real estate agent, and making sure that you have a good tools, right? Because, and I'll kind of contextualize that a little bit. When I started my brokerage back in 2017, I've been an agent since 2005. Prior to that, I was a home builder contractor since 1989. But let's just kind of, to contextualize, when I started my brokerage in 2017, I thought this would be great. I'm going to give agents all the technology tools in the world. And then what I found out was that they didn't log in, they didn't use them, they weren't, they really weren't. It's crazy, right? They're not being successful, not using tools, which goes hand in hand. They don't have a goal, a set of goals. They don't have a structure to their day. They basically fly from fire to fire or by the seat of their pants. What if you had to put your finger on one thing that's invaluable to your business as far as technology tools? What would that one thing be?
I don't know. I guess the most basic thing that's been invaluable to me is the email, which is just I don't know. I've played with tools like CRMs and those softwares where you can mass send out emails, but I found what works better for me is just the templates on Google, on Gmail, where you can have a set template. It makes it really easy to follow up, and then I just customize it. Takes me maybe 1 or 2 minutes to send an email, and then use that to follow up with people, and use that to follow up with people, send listings. And it streamlines the whole process, where the more people that you reach, the more success you're going to have. But yeah, what tools do you use?
So I believe that the best tool for anyone in business is a CRM. And I guess it just depends on how big your business you want, right? So I think that, one of the things that I hear agents all the time. They're like, hey, I want to get an assistant. I need an assistant. And I'm like, well, how much do you do in business a year? How many transactions do you do? And, you can't go by, I never tell people to focus on the dollar amount of what they're doing. I focus on transactions, right? Because if we can analytically, focus on being a transaction driven business, the money will be there. You need to know, like, because you could say, like, I did $5 million last year, but that was only one transaction. Maybe you got lucky, you sold a $5 million house, right? But that's not really building a business for you, because what happens is as you're doing transactions, that then becomes the need to build systems, right? So I'll say to agents a lot of times, they're like, yeah, they'll say, well, I can't do that because I don't have time. And I'm like, all right, well, how many transactions do you do? And maybe they'll say I do 12 or 15 transactions. Maybe they'll say I do 20 transactions. In my opinion, 20 transactions a year doesn't merit having an assistant, because there are other things that you can do. You're giving money away and you're taking yourself from being a producer to being a manager, and your production's going to suffer because of that. So somewhere there's a fine line of when do you add somebody that detracts you from being production based, right? Because the moment you bring somebody in, you've just added 10, 15 hours to your work week now out of production just to manage that person, right? And what I think is that you can deploy other resources, transaction coordinators. You can hire services for that, pay a couple $100 a transaction. So if you think about it as being, I don't want to remove myself from being the money man, right? I don't want to remove myself from being that breadwinner, that bringing it home, big bank deposits, focusing on whatever it takes to build my business. I could easily be distracted with all these other things that I need. And I think the same goes that I see agents spend so much time on building social media, which I think is important because that's number 2 in tools, in my opinion. 1 is CRM, 2 is social media, but the right platform, right? Facebook sucks. People want to publish on Facebook. If you're a business page, you're not even being seen anymore unless you spend money, right? And I know you're a YouTuber. I love the YouTube platform. I think that's number 1 that agents should focus on, and Instagram and TikTok. But getting back to the first tool of the CRM.
Yeah.
I believe that as we get busy, so I'm not criticizing you, man. I love what you're doing. You're a smart guy and you're on the right track and you're getting great mentorship, and keep listening to that. But here's the thing. When you add the kind of numbers that you need to add to build everything else downstream, have a team one day, have a brokerage one day, build a brand that sticks out in the community, you need massive communication to massive numbers of people. You need to be a data collection entrepreneur from the moment that you open your doors. You need to get as many email addresses, as many contacts, names and numbers, right? Everything. Build the database of who they are, who their dog is, everything, right? And then you need a support system that builds that or keeps you in front of them monthly at least, right? And nothing is going to do that better than a CRM. You can try and do as much of it as you can, but you're eventually going to run out of time where you're spending so much time, work. You don't even know who these people are. You could put them in as many buckets as you want. But if you have something called a CRM, you can label it. And this is not plugging him, but I love Brian Buffini's CRM. It's the simplest, man. It's like $50 a month. He runs sales all the time for $25 a month at the time of this recording anyway. And man, it's easy. A, B, C, D, right? You set them up, these different letters. It's simple. It's on a premise of calls, notes, and Popeyes. Brian Buffini didn't invent this system. Calls, notes, and Popeyes. All he's doing is teaching people how to use it, right? I mean, it's, he may have invented his little slogan, but it's fundamentals. Call people, visit them, send them written notes, as well as emails, right? So anyway, that's what I think. If someone wants to really be a big producer, they have to have a system that won't fail when they get busy. And just to just to tag on to that, I know it's a long-winded answer, but just to tag on to that, where I see agents or just businesses in general fail. And by the way, as a contractor, they're the worst business people that I've ever encountered or came across to, because they get so busy on the job, they never get back to people. They go and see them. They measure everything up. They never send them an estimate. A lot of them never get back to them. Can't get a hold of them. Can't get answer the phone. Their voicemails are full, right? There's zero business systems in their business. It's because they're the doer, right? However, if you take that concept and you have a simple system that just sends a communication out every now and then, you don't have to do a lot of that follow-up work until it's appropriate. You can set triggers, dates to call them back, important milestones, birthdays, holidays, things like that. But anyway, that's what I think.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I do think that's where I'm leaving some money on the table. Because I have old leads from years ago that kind of went cold, stopped responding to me, and they fell to the back burner. And putting them into a CRM, or really everyone would avoid me losing touch with those contacts. That's a good point.
I had an agent that sold a $850,000 house off of somebody that she put in the CRM, was not using the CRM. But fortunately, this particular CRM that we had actually sent out a monthly newsletter without you doing anything at all. You could customize it if you wanted to, but there's a lot of CRMs that do that. They'll send out that newsletter. And when the client called up my agent, she said, I've been getting your emails every single month. I mean, she went on a listing appointment and it was almost a year later before the people listed the house. She didn't communicate with them at all, until then. But that email, that monthly newsletter was just enough to get that sale.
Wow.
So what kind of final thoughts, Liam, do you have for maybe somebody that's considering getting in the business, that maybe has, rose-colored glasses on, that's thinking, they're going to jump into this business? What were some of the things that you found out weren't what you thought, and what advice do you have for that?
I think the best advice is that it's not going to be given to you. We talked about getting into the office and doing the work. And the way I think about it is these buyers and sellers, there's a lot of agents out there to choose from. And if you are not doing what you can to make yourself the best agent that you can be, then you're going to lose to one of the agents who is doing that. And that, you mentioned my YouTube channel. That's part of the reason why I started it is, one, it's to get my name out there more, but it's also to get a better understanding of the market, of the economy, for buyers that I speak with and sellers who aren't watching the channel, but then also to share with prospective buyers and sellers so they can make the best decision for themselves with their home buying needs. Because no matter what type of market it is, people always have different reasons to buy and sell, and it's not necessarily for us to make that decision for them, but it's for us to give them the best information possible and help them so they can make the best choice.
Yeah, that's great advice. How about for the potential client out there that could be listening that says, you know what, we don't do anything. Us real estate agents, all we are is glorified door openers. And, what do you say to them? Why is it important that someone utilize a professional?
Yeah, I'm a skier. And so I kind of think about things sometimes as a ski agent or as a skier. And when you're going through a real estate transaction, you don't know what the transaction is going to bring. And if you've only been through this one or two times, once you're under contract, if we hit a snag with the inspection, if you're not able to properly negotiate the contract price when you're going under contract, if you don't structure the deal properly, that could come back and bite you. And same thing as a seller. How do you know that you are accepting the right buyer? How are you making sure that you're putting yourself in the best position to close and that you're getting the most amount of money? Really deciphering the different parts of the transaction is where is where I think the best real estate agents come into play. Of course, advising when you're out there showing property, knowing the market, knowing if this is a good deal or not, understanding the buyers and if it makes sense for them. And same thing on the sell side, where your property sits in terms of the other homes on the market is very important when initially listing your home. So I guess bringing it full circle back to the skiing analogy, where sometimes I think when you enter into a real estate transaction, you don't necessarily know what trail you're going on, right? If you're a skier, you could be going down a green circle and it could be completely fine. I mean, there are for sale by owners who sell their homes and don't have a problem with it, but you also don't know if you're going to be on a double black diamond. And if it's your first time on skis, if it's one of your first real estate transactions, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. That could be costly. You could leave money on the table, or you could lose the deal. And so that's really where we come into play is we're the expertise that have been through, many of these transactions, have seen a lot of different scenarios and know what's going on in the market to advise you the best that we can.
Liam, that's great. I love the analogy. And man, I think we're going to be seeing some big stuff from you. I really do. I feel it. I think that this is just the beginning for you, my friend. I think you're going to continue to climb. And I love what you're doing. I love your advice. I love your calm. And like I said, you don't need it all today. You're willing to put in the time, the work to have a greater tomorrow. And I think a lot of people will benefit from not just hearing about you. Guys should cruise on over to Liam's YouTube channel, the link down below in the show notes. Subscribe to his channel. I think it's something here. I do believe if you're a real estate agent and you're watching this, or anybody in any business really that's just wanting to be successful, I think the YouTube platform is definitely something to explore. Of all the other platforms out there, I think that the leads that come in from YouTube are the most serious and most solid. So Liam, thank you so much for your time today, man. I appreciate it. God bless you. We'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you so much, Todd. I really appreciate you having me. And thanks for your advice as well with the CRM. Really helpful.
Yes, sir. All right, guys, there you have it. I think that we'll be seeing quite a lot more from Liam as his real estate career is just getting started. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing to our channel and hit that alert bell. You'll know every time we upload content just like this. And if you have something that you'd like to say, you could do so in the comments, or if you have your own personal story to tell, reach out to me. Let's talk about having you as a guest right here on our channel. See you next time.